Hey, everybody, welcome back to Wrestling Travel's Lockdown Sessions, brought to you, as always, by our friends at True Heel Heat Wrestling over there in New York City. If you're looking for a brand new pro wrestling podcast to listen to or just keep up with all the general nonsense, check out our boys at True Heel Heat. That's TRU. But today, we are joined by John Bullard from Chicagoland Championship Wrestling. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I enjoy your show, watch it all the time on YouTube, and you know what? It's really cool to be on the show with you. I really appreciate it.
You're my first guy that said he's watched it before. So that's awesome. Yeah. Appreciate that. We just tried to do something out of nothing here right when the pandemic started. So Chicagoland Championship Wrestling. I want to get to all the stuff going on there, but just like all my other shows that you watch, you know the routine. I got to start at the beginning. How long have you been in the business, John?
Started back in 2001. The way I broke into the business, I was still a kid in high school. My high school English teacher, Diane Shrewby, she caught me with a PWI magazine tucked in between the English books. And I thought that magazine was going to be thrown into the garbage. Turns out her son was a professional wrestler. And we started talking, and I was like, yeah, that's all I've ever wanted to do, you know? And she's like, great. You know, I was like, here's a ticket. Go talk to my son when you get the chance. I'll introduce you because I'll be at the show because wrestling moms, you know, that could be sometimes. And she's like, I'll be there to, you know, introduce you guys. So go to the show, talk to him, talk to another guy named Spike Moore. And they were like, yeah, kid, you know, how old are you? And I was like, 16. And they're like, yeah, that's not bad. You know, you got some time left. You know, and she kept on telling her son, like, yeah, he does a lot of high school sports and he's real physical. You know, he might be pretty good. Who knows? So he's like, all right, I'll tell you what, we've got a training camp coming up. If you want to get like at least your father or mother's signature or whatever, then we'll probably give you like the training course to see if you can handle it. If not, you know, we'll wait till you're 18. So I was like, yeah, this is great. Next thing I did, went to my father, asked him. He's like, no way in hell. So I was like, all right, Dad, great. Wonderful. First thing I did, went in the back, started signing his name on everything. This was the horrible things to do, kids. Don't ever do this at home. But signing his name on it, went over to Diane, here you go. I think she already knew, like, my dad said no. She's like, screw it. Let him do this. So went into the ring. And they held their little training class that was at this fair bar in our town. So it was like 100 degrees August. And I remember looking at all these guys around me. They're all grown men. And I was like, what the hell am I doing here? I'm a teenage kid. There's no way in the world I'm going to survive this. But I can't go home like knowing I failed because my old man would never let me like live it down. So I sucked it up. We did everything from Hindu squats, push-ups. We learned how, you know, the bridging. We ran 4 or 5 big laps around the fair barn, and then had to drop down, do push-ups, get back up, run them again, you know. And I was watching like grown men around me like puke up their guts, and one by one you watch a class start like weeding out, you know, after a couple hours. Somehow I guess because I did like a lot of soccer and a lot of like cross country as a kid, it helped me out with my cardio. And they look at me and they're like, how is it this kid's still here? Like they were hoping I was gonna get weeded out. So after that, they were like, all right, you did well for your first day. We'll have you come back for more. And from that day forward, I was a kid that came to the building, helped set up, helped take down, you know, did the dues like everyone should do. And it's, you know, you've been in the business as long as I have. It kills me today. I see a lot of kids that I'll talk to. I'm like, hey, man, are you going to help set up a ring? Oh, why should I?
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
that's part of your dues. Like, I mean, I still set up a ring, and I've been doing this for a long time. I enjoy it. I'm like, that's how you learn the business, how you learn the ring. That's how you learn where the safety spot is at in your on your body, where you know, all right, this part of the ring's got a little bit more cushion. Let's bump here instead of over here on the boards, you know, and just be smart. Yeah. A lot of kids today don't want to do that. They don't want to set up chairs or I don't know how many times I've seen veterans, hey, I got to open the seat in my car. Let's go for a 4-hour, 5-hour car ride. You may not get a booking, but you'll get to talk to the promoter. Oh, well, I'd rather go play video games. Like, come on, man. That's that's an open seat to learn from a guy. Like, go do it. You know, he's not even asking for money, just travel. Let's go. So I became the guy that started doing all types of different work for him, ring announcer, referee, did commentary. Finally got the chance to start wrestling, doing all that. By the time 2010, 2011 rolled in, I kind of like my whole resume was kind of wonky for some people. They're like, you got like all these like jack of trades of like different things that you learned over the years. I'm like, yeah, I kind of learned like maybe not every promotion is going to book me as a wrestler. So I learned, hey, if you need a manager, oh yeah, hey, I got a suit and tie. I can be your manager for you, or you need me to be a ring announcer. I can do that too. And I found more bookings doing that than just beating on a promoter's door and asking them, hey, I want to wrestle for you. Is too. Sometimes promotions got their shows booked up for an entire year. It's like, hey, I'm sorry, there's no spot, but I do have a spot for this. That's perfect. I'll put on the zebra stripes. Let's do this. So built up from that, and 2012 to 2014, I ran Pro Wrestling Freedom in Kentucky, and we had a very successful run. Married my wife. She was a Chicago girl, and moved up to the Midwest, and kind of decided to take a break away from wrestling for a while. Well, the fast forward to the story, a few years into it, a good friend of mine decided he wanted to become a pro wrestling referee. And he was actually very good at his job. His name was Christopher Martinez. And every day he would call me for advice. And I would sit there with the phone and I'd go over stuff with him. We'd watch footage, break down, psychology. And one day he finally called me and he was like, hey, man, I got a show coming up and they're down a referee. Would you mind donning the stripes one last time at least, and at least being a mentor and giving advice to guys? And it took me forever. My wife will tell this story too. It took me forever to say yes to it, because I was like, nah, I'm good. But when someone's your best friend, you kind of have a hard time saying no to them. And I finally did. And I noticed that in the Midwest, there's a lot of great talent, and there's some young talent that may not have been properly trained, but they still have that guidance where you could teach them how to do things properly. So we found a great core of young guys and veteran talent that we always decided, if we would actually run a company again and do kind of like an old school TV studio style show, this is the group of guys I would actually work with. And pretty much that's kind of like how Chicagoland Championship Wrestling came about. So for 2 years, we scouted talent and trying to find the right pieces to the puzzle. Chris in 2020 passed away of cancer. He had stage 4. So it was kind of like my promise to him. I was like, if we're going to do this, we're going to run the show. So this October 3rd show that we're doing, it's all for Chris.
A lot right there. I want to back up, and I don't want to take away anything from the show coming up, so we're going to get there. But when you talk about my biggest pet peeve is nobody helping setting up or taking down that ring. I'm in the same boat with you. I don't know if I lost you or what. We lost the camera.
Hold on.
We're live here, guys. This is 2020. So I just had I had him change his camera, just the angle, just as we went on. So we'll see if we can get him back.
Trying to find out how to get this camera on. I do apologize.
Oh, you're good. This is 2020. This happens on the national news, so we're good. There you are. Yeah. We'll change it so
and damn phones.
It happens. You know what happens too is a lot of times if you do it on your phone and then somebody gives you a phone call, then you're just completely cut out. So yeah. I'm lucky I'm doing it on my laptop. But no, you can tell we're cut of the same cloth. I came back from out east, moved back to Wisconsin, and got invited to do a little comeback tour and performed on a couple shows, and the amount of people that did not help set up the ring. Now, I'm a giver, dude. I helped set up shows that I wasn't even on.
Yes, same here.
Even at my age, selling hot dogs, I'll sell tickets. But these guys showing up to the shows a half hour before meeting, Ring's already set up. There's like, I'm like, dude, I'm not even on the show, dude, and I'm hauling the ring around. So I'm like, I'll be damn sure you guys are putting it back on the truck. But that's one of my biggest pet peeves, and I don't know if it's just me. But a kid going in the ring and before he enters the ring and he doesn't wipe his feet drives me absolutely insane. Not showing the respect to the people that have come before him and everybody respecting the ring. That drives me absolute nuts. But then sometimes I think I'll go off on a tangent here because I spoke in the last few months about the speaking out movement that was happening. Particularly, we're out of the United Kingdom. It's big over there. It's big everywhere, actually. But I say do you remember when we used to protect the business? And it was protecting the business. Basically, we're trying not to show everybody behind the curtain. We're protecting that magic. Well, obviously with the internet, a lot of that has changed. But I still say we need to protect the business from, and fans included, from these people that have come along now. Now, when I trained, you got lucky. You had the teacher there. I got lucky. I was at a show, and Eddie Sharkey happened to be there. And I'm going, hey, I want to get in this. And Wayne the Train Bloom is standing there at the beer going, fuck that kid. You don't want to be into this shit. I'm like, I kind of do, But eventually one thing led to, so it wasn't just go up on the internet and call your local, hey, school, I'll go down. You had to, and even when it was there, when you started training, they were weeding out I remember talking to Eddie, he goes, yeah, we weed out the assholes right away.
Oh, yeah.
Once I put my hand on you, I've got your livelihood in my hands. You better make sure that I'm trustworthy. But what happens today is now at least up here in Wisconsin, any Tom, Dick, or Harry can buy a ring and call themselves a promoter. And people remember when you broke in and it was like $5,000 to go to camp? Yeah. Now people, kid, I'll train you for $300. And now I got some idiot who's not even really trained himself, because I've asked people, who's your trainer? Who broke? Favorite question, who broke you in? Sometimes I'm like 6 or 7 generations back before I recognize a name. And I'm not saying I know everybody's name. But when you're charging $300, I can buy a ring and be a promoter. Now, I can be a jackass and put the belt on myself and start training kids in for $300. Well, eventually the kids are going to think, in order to be on top, I need to be a complete jackass. And I think that's part of the reason why this speaking out movement, where I don't want to go, hey, we need completely strict regulations in the world of pro wrestling. But I do think that you and I, people like-minded, need to bring back that protect the business aspect and protect the business from these outsider assholes that have come. I know plenty of guys that started at 16 in the backyard and then went on to going, hey, I really like this. I want to do it.
And they took it serious.
Yeah, I want to go on and train. A lot of the guys I just spoke to last month in Texas, there was a number of them. We were all in this backyard fed, but we went up to top of Texas promotions because we wanted to learn. We wanted to get better. And that's not my rant to you, but my rant in general, that I just think that's what's happened. Too many I can trade you for 300.
I agree. I mean, back then, I remember in 2001, there was still that old school brotherhood where if you knew someone was a rapist, a creeper, or whatever, you went out there and you beat the dog shit out of them. And you pushed them out of your business and let them know, don't you ever come back. Problem is now, like you said, the door has been opened up to so many of these young guys. And half the gay people are supposed to be the trainers or the guardians of the business, as you speak. Now it's like, I'm everyone's friend. As a trainer, you should never be no one's friend. You should be that guy who's like, no, I'm here to make sure you're a good wrestler. And then you make sure you respect this business. I do the same thing as you talk about the wipe your feet on the apron before you step into the ring. That every time I ever do any show, that's the first thing I do. I get up, wipe them, step in the ring. And I watch people when I went on my scouting trips with my wife and my friend Chris. I would watch, and that's one of the first things I watch for guys. I'm like, does he wipe his feet before he enters the ring? And some of them do. I'm like, okay, at least I know he was trained proper. Right. Because old school. If you don't respect that ring, you don't need to be in the fucking business. That's the way I look at it. You know,
100%. And you know what? People watching this, kids, watch your favorite wrestlers. They do it.
William Regal, prime example. Anytime Regal ever stepped in the ring, always wiped his feet. Finley wiped his feet every time.
It's such a respectful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just get you know, and this idea that I've talked to so many people that know it all, that have seen it all, know it all, and I'm like, really? Because I know a little bit.
I don't know everything.
I forgot a lot, but I don't know it all. And it's just it's I'm gonna make us sound old, and I don't mean to drag you down with me, but it's such a thing. But then I see some young guys out there that are killing it, doing it right. I got the opportunity last summer. I was up in Canada doing some stuff for Wrestling Travel and the other shoot job. And I ended up calling a promotion up there, NCW, Northern Championship Wrestling. I didn't know who they were. I called them. I said, they're up in Montreal. I said, hey, do you mind if we come by, maybe film some stuff? When do you train? We went and watched them train. And I'm telling you, John, all they did is speak French the entire training. And it brought me back to my days of training. I'm like, I understand everything this guy is saying and everything they're doing just because I went through it. And it was such a, and I don't mean to sound, such a universal language. I don't mean to sound all flowery, but it was the coolest experience. And I'm like, I don't speak a lick of French, but I got to see him do that. And some of the young kids there were asking me, hey, what did you think? Because when you walk in as a guest to a training thing, they're under the assumption that you're kind of important, you know. And I'm like, listen, and I go, watch your trainer, watch his feet. I'm watching from his ankle up to like his mid-thigh. Watch how much less steps he is taking to get to the point, and watch things like that. That's when you can get your feet. Now I know how it is. I said, you start thinking, okay, I need to be here and I need to be here and my feet need to be doing this and now everything. But I said, if you can start at your base, and once those feet are moving where you're not having to think about it, now everything just comes. And I just, but that's the type of stuff that I don't think
less is more. That's another thing that's not taught either. Less is more. We ever think like, oh, less is being lazy. I'm like, no, less is mean you're doing all the right things at the right time. You're not overkilling all the other things you're wanting to do. And when it does happen, oh, that's amazing. It's like, yeah, it's like magic. Think about this. And this is maybe this is going to be me and you on the pulpit talking about our philosophies on this. I'm glad me and you are becoming friends on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I look at wrestling like a good magic show. A good magician doesn't do 5 million tricks. A good magician does maybe 5, 10 big tricks on stage, but it's a build-up. Everything he does, and then the final trick is this ginormous climactic, like, wow, that's some David Copperfield stuff. And then he leaves out. And he's like, oh, by the way, I'll have a next special in a couple of weeks from now. Don't want to miss this. And you're instantly thinking like, oh my God, what is he going to do next? And it keeps you so enticed with it. Pro wrestling is beautiful when it's done that way too. When you don't give everyone your entire tricks all in one shot, make them earn it. Make them want to come back and see the next crazy thing you're going to do, or the next technical hold you'll find out of the book and slap it on someone they haven't seen in 25 years. Do something that people haven't seen before. When everybody says, well, everything's been done, I disagree. A lot of things have been overdone. But if you go back to re-educating the fans of storytelling, and then you do something proper, and instantly it'll gravitate. I watch it every time. I've been watching the Midwest, the South, the East, everything. Storytelling still to this day works. Watch the Revival. Anytime the Revival wrestle, it's storytelling. And it is done to the perfect T. Because when you do everything, it makes sense.
One of the things I've wanted to do, and I've talked about it and never have done it in the last 6 months, is I'm a old school. I'm an AWA guy. I love watching old stuff. I only got 3 channels growing up, and AWA was on. Everybody asks you, who's your favorite wrestler? Was it this, this, and this? And I'm like, it's Greg Gagne. And I don't apologize for that, because Greg Gagne, when I first started watching, was Sergeant Slaughter was taking him under his wing. It was after Brunzell left, and that was my first memory. And I'm like, and I've got to see him wrestle as a child so many times. And I hope somebody watching this can reach out to Greg Gagne one day, because I'd love to just have him on the show just to talk to him. And I think then I could just end the show and be done with it, because I just want to. And I used to have I got an autograph. I got a shoot interview and stuff with him. And well, my point is, so many, I want to do, when was the last time, and every time I say this, I get screwed on it, because somebody's like, I just saw it last week. I don't see an atomic drop. I don't see an abdominal stretch a lot. Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre had a backslide finish. Now, that was cool.
Yeah,
I've been at Warrior Wrestling, and I saw Kylie Ray on August 7th do a Russian leg sweep. It was awesome. Alex Shelley and TJ Perkins a week ago, there was a surfboard in the just a lot of, because I know we're all in this 2020, everything's high spot. But if people were to go back and maybe start bringing some of these moves back and stuff, just I would love it. I'm just going to do an article on all the moves I miss. You know who's doing a lot of really good stuff, and he's on YouTube right now, is our friend Tyson Dukes. If you get a chance, check out his YouTube. He's got these 4 or 5 minute videos with reversal, hammerlock, this and that, and I'm like, he's just like a student of the game.
You know what I actually would like to see too is someone actually doing a loaded fist for a finisher. They throw no punches throughout the entire match. That one punch is a TKO knockout. And it's just like, wow. Because in real life, we've all seen bar fights. Sometimes it takes that one punch and levels the guy out for good. It's like, huh, that's believable. Been punched in the face before? Yeah. That hurts, doesn't it? Oh, absolutely. Well, he knocks people out like Mike Tyson. Well, that's a believable finish, if it's done properly. It's like I remember Tim Horner. Tim Horner used to do that. Not like a small package. I think maybe it was a small package. No, he did the O'Connor roll for a while, and he did the O'Connor roll, and he beat guys every time he did it, and he made it an established finisher. If he grabs you from behind and he starts rolling with you, you're not going to kick out. And the problem with wrestling today, every kid wants to do everything like a video game. Only go hit 5,000 Canadian destroyers, okay. But think about this: what's your finish? Oh, he'll beat me with a schoolboy roll-up. Oh, so get dropped on your head, doesn't finish the match, but the dreaded schoolboy roll-up gets him every time. Mind-boggling.
Yes, that and people booking the show where everything's happening in the front end of the show, and it's like, well, what the hell is that? What's going to happen? No names here. But I saw before the pandemic, very proud girl put on a clip. She's about 90 pounds. Ring announcer. They picked her up and freaking power bombed her through a table off the second or top rope. I forget what it was. And I go, now what does the rest?
Yeah.
Now what does a guy like me have to do to get pinned? Are they going to freaking run me over with a tractor trailer or what? It doesn't make, it's got to make sense. And once I think people that are just maybe getting into this wrestling and they've seen the high spot, once they start seeing some stuff that makes sense and they start seeing some psychology, you can like both. I don't have to because I'm old and I don't have, but I mean, you can like these high spots and then appreciate the storytelling. I get into some of the matches that I never saw live, but I'm looking at a collection of DVDs behind you, but just I can think of a lot of stuff that I've seen, and I'm like, that match was awesome. What really happened? It wasn't so much any action in the ring; it was that psychology and that storytelling that really drew me in. The one thing I always go to: Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho. I can't remember when it was. Jericho accidentally tagged Shawn Michaels' wife, and they had an unsanctioned match. And just the look on Shawn's face throughout that match and after, I was like, they freaking reeled me in. It was awesome. And sometimes I think I've been in the business too long, and I can't get reeled in. Oh, dude, all the time, all the time.
I would say one of the best storytelling matches I ever saw, and it threw me for a loop. Went to go see a death match tournament once. It was IWA East Coast Masters of Pain, and it was Matt Tremont versus Masada in the finals. And they told a story like the entire tournament. Like Masada's just like gunning through guys like left and right. Like he doesn't even take a bump. He's just eating guys for lunch. Tremont's taking an ass kicking, but he keeps finding ways to win. And when he wins the finals, every time Masada would dump him off the ring or he'd do this nasty bump, the refs are doing the counts, like boxing. And every time it's like a 9 count, somehow Tremont would get back up. And everyone's like, stay down. And boom, another like horrible thing. And everybody's like, oh, he's dead. He's dead. Somehow he does a Terry Funk, like pulls himself up and he's finally back in the ring. And everyone's like, holy crap, man. And I'm looking around. I'm like, oh my God, he's telling a story. And this entire crowd's eating it up because it's not just violence, it's an emotion. Like, we really like this kid. And his other guys, it's a bully. He's killing guys left and right. And finally, he beats Masada, and the crowd just explodes, you know. And I looked at my friend and said, for the first time ever, I've seen a death match actually tell a story here in the United States, and this was actually good storytelling. Like, kudos. And I told that to Matt Tremont when I saw him. I was like, man, dude, awesome. Awesome job. Because I was like, I've never seen people, like, shed tears at a deathmatch tournament seeing a human being, like, fight back up like you did. Like, that's a beautiful job, man. I was like, I'm not a big fan of death matches, but you deserve a lot of praise for what you just did. I was like, good work, you know. Yeah, when storytelling's done right, it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
The other thing I want to see somebody bring it back, and maybe Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, but to you, not really. I just want to see it because as a kid, do you remember when they used to paint a yellow stripe down a guy's back? I haven't seen that done in forever.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. Oh, same here. You know, and yeah. Or when's the last time a guy actually got knocked out of a roll of quarters? You know? Yeah. Easy stuff. Is things like guys could like literally bring back from the 80s that hasn't been seen by this like the new generation and blow people's brains. You're like, wow, I never saw that before. I'm like, yeah, man, that's roll of quarters. That's like a brass knuckle shot and just knocked him out.
Yeah, all that stuff works, and it's worked for years. And I just you know, that's why I got on my little soapbox there, and then I went to Warrior and Kylie Ray, and I had to tweet. I'm like, I freaking saw a freaking Russian leg sweep for the first time in a long time. That's great.
Yeah. You know,
I think I was talking with an East Coast guy talking about atomic drops, and we're talking. First, I thought I remembered this, that Honky Tonk Man sold it best, and then somebody said, dude, Rick Rude sold them the best. And then Vince Valor's telling me, hey, my boy Frankie Feathers does the atomic drop all the time. And I'm like, all right, cool. So yeah, I think there's room for it. I think there's obviously stuff changes as you go on, but I think like you and I are talking, some of the old can be new again.
Well, yeah. I think honestly the claw can come back as a great finisher too. You know, just have someone crush apples or crush like certain things, and it's like, well, yeah, that's tough because, like, you know, the average kid will try to crush an apple. They can't do it. But you see someone else just, like, obliterate an apple. Or I remember there was an old World Class video where Kerry Von Erich takes a Coke can that wasn't open and crushes the can. And, like, Coca-Cola's, like, spewing everywhere. And I was like, wow, like, that's cool. Like, that's different. And then he puts a claw on people and bleeding all over the place, and you see like the blood's coming down, and just that story of this, that how that hold can do so much damage. I'd like to see the claw come back because that's, if you got the big hands, my God, it's a believable move. You know, it's a vice grip.
Last November, about an hour away, there was a show, and it had Gangrel, I think Hornswoggle, but it said Baron Von Raschke was going to be there. And you bet your ass I bought a ticket. All of my wrestling stuff from when I was a kid is gone. And I had a Baron Von Raschke autographed AWA program, and you bet I got my picture taken with the Baron. 79 years old, and the guy looked like he could go today. In fact, Mick Karch, who former AWA ring announcer, has a great page on Facebook called Slick Mix Old School Wrestling, and I shared the picture in there. I go, thought you guys would like to see the Baron. And the one guy said, Von Raschke looks great. Clapper, not so much. And I'm like, yeah, dude, true. At 79, he looked like he could go. He's a guy I'd love to get a chance to talk to. I remember seeing him, Wahoo McDaniel, when I was a kid. All these guys that I was very, very lucky to see. What go ahead. I think you were going to say something there.
Oh, I was about to ask like one AWA question to you. You ever had the chance to see the Crusher?
Oh, never got a chance to see him live.
That would have been cool.
No, that would have been cool. I want to get down there to see the Crusher statue. I think it's just the 1-year anniversary of Milwaukee. I want to see that. Somebody who I've had on the lockdown sessions, Beer City Bruiser, and that's one of the questions I asked him. Like, it's got to feel pretty cool to be compared to an icon like that, and Matt takes it very seriously, and the legacy of the Crusher and stuff like that. But yeah, I would have. But did you get a chance to watch the Lockdown with Nikita Koloff? I asked him when I asked him, because I'm like, you know what, I could ask him about the Magnum TA Best of 7, but I said, here's my journalistic research. I was watching YouTube last night, and 1985 Comiskey Park. It's Nikita, Ivan Koloff, Crusher Khrushchev, Barry Darsow. They're in the ring with Von Raschke, Dick the Bruiser, and the Crusher. So he's a young kid in there with, and Darso's young too, but there's 4 legends in the ring, and all of a sudden now today there's 6. But I asked him, what was that like? And he says, you know, the crowd's going nuts. And I'm like, what the hell for these old guys? And he's talking about Dick the Bruiser throwing punches at him and going rat-a-tat-tat. And he goes, he's actually making that noise. And it was, oh, man, I'm so glad that that my brain works differently than a lot of people that have a podcast, because I'm like, yeah, okay, a lot of cool stuff I could ask you, but what about being in the ring with these guys? And,
yeah, man. Yeah.
I want to get down to Fort Wayne and just see the War Memorial Coliseum. I know some people run shows there. If I won the Powerball, I'd be doing – a lot of people would do a lot of stupid stuff, but my stuff would be more stupid to the general public. I'd love to go on a run and find I don't have a whole lot of memorabilia, but I'd love to have some like old school stuff that nobody wants to sit around, like old posters and stuff like that. I'd be a big fan.
Oh man, those old program books are awesome too.
I just want to have stuff back from when I was a kid. I want the March 1988 issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. It had like a gold cover. It was 1987 in review, and I just remember reading that from cover to cover. My copy was missing pages because I read it so much, and eventually I'm sure Mom threw it out, but I'm like, man, I want to get a copy of it, but I see it goes for like $20-25 on eBay. I just want to get a copy and read it.
I miss the days when the old Pro Wrestling Illustrateds were like on the front cover, like the juice jobs, and everyone's like bleeding everywhere. It's like, man, those magazines sold like hotcakes. I went through a yard sale when I was living in Kentucky, and this old lady had like 2 ginormous boxes full of magazines. And I was like, oh, what's these magazines? She's like, oh, it's just a bunch of old, wrestling magazines. And I'm like, really? I'm like, okay, let's take a look. And they're all from like the 70s and 80s. And I was like, how much do you want for these? And she was like, oh, just make me a deal. And I'm like, $20, just to see if she was like lowbar. She's like, deal. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, So take these 2 ginormous boxes full of PWI. So they're actually still in really good condition. And sure enough, a friend of mine who was staying at our house as a roommate, he decides like, oh, hey, I'll sell these on eBay. And I didn't know about it. And I went home one day and like they were all gone, like half the box. I'm like, well, where's those magazines? He's like, oh yeah, I sold them. And I'm like, why? I was like, dude, that's like part of the collection. I'm like, you know how many people would like kill to have some of these magazines from the 70s and 80s in that type of condition? I was like, it's worth a lot of money to a lot of collectors, And so, yeah, I know what you mean. Some of those average PWI magazines are going for like $20, $30, $40.
The thing is I can't buy them for that much because I don't want to just keep them pristine. I want to read them. I want to find somebody who's got a bunch of shitty copies of it. I was at All Out last August, And this guy had all these LJN, the rubber LJN figures from the 80s.
Oh,
Some
wow.
of them still in the box. Some of them just look like they came out of the box for like $300. And I go, dude, I have one. I have Hulk Hogan. That's all I could afford at the time. But I said, I'd like to get into it. And he goes, great guy. He comes back Sunday. He goes, I got some I can't sell. I said, I'll buy the beat up ones or whatever. And I'm kind of going through them, and he's like, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm just trying to pick out the ones I would want. And he goes, I wanted to sell you the whole box. He sold me like 42 of them for $25.
You can't beat that. That's a good deal.
There's a couple of them that are doubles in there, and they're all beat to shit. And I'm like, listen, I just, when you get to our age, you kind of want to, I'd like to get the stuff that I couldn't afford as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same with the old Hasbro figures, that WWF used to have, and the one arm would move, or like the body press thing. I'm really glad they actually started bringing those that style of figures back for that little run they did. Oh, that was really cool retro, for toy collecting. Oh yeah, yeah. Those old man figures were cool too.
Yeah, they're just cool looking. I'm just like, wow, I wish there was a Warlord one there that I'm like, dude, I love the Warlord's paint. And he goes, that's like $300. I'm like, yeah, can't do it. I can't do it. Are you a DVD guy like myself, I assume?
Yes, me and my wife both are big collectors of anything and everything, movies or wrestling. We have it on DVD. So, and also VHS tapes too. So I still, every time I find good VHS tapes, I'll still buy VHS tape if I can.
I end up, every show I would go on, I would try to get out there before the fans and check out vendors. And there was a vendor at a show in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Don't know the name of the vendor, but he had all kinds of bootleg wrestling DVDs, like the best of Rick Rude, the best of Ben. But somebody had just compiled like their career, like a match from WCW, CWA, all the way up to like their WWF stuff. And I just ate it up, and I think I must have spent like $100 with this guy on just $5 DVDs, because everybody's like, well, you got the network and YouTube. And I'm like, yeah, but even with some of my favorite TV shows, Netflix takes them down after a while. I mean,
after a couple of months, yeah.
I'd like to have the physical media,
I knew that my wife was the perfect woman for me. When she moved in, she says, yeah, I got a whole bunch of wrestling DVDs too for my collection. I'm like, oh, awesome. First thing she had a like 8-disc set of all of William Regal's matches when he was in England. And she's like, yeah, here you go. And I was like, oh my God. And then she pulled out like the Dean Malenko collection. It was like all of Dean's stuff in all of Japan. And I was like, this is phenomenal. Like, where you got this from? She's like, well, like tape traders and people who are at shows that are got this stuff for sale. She's like, I saw that. She's like, yeah, I'm buying both sets. I'm like, yep, you're the right woman for me. And I was like, the perfect marriage.
That's awesome. I need somebody that taped a bunch of AWA off of TV back in the day. I looked at trying to find tape. My first tape trading when I was in college in eBay, I was just talking about this morning. I got the Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask. That was my first one. I think everybody gets that. Yeah. And so I looked it up recently on Facebook. There's a group, and I asked, hey, I'm new. Does anybody got any AWA? And they do, and I have it on Google Drive. Well, my dumb ass doesn't know how to work Google Drive and trust people to if I send them $50 that they're going to send me all the stuff they can. So I got burned on a Venmo deal not too long ago. So I just was trusting. So I need to find more shows with tapes. But we can go on, and we got to talk about Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, because that's what we need to talk about. So how long how long have you been doing Chicagoland Championship Wrestling?
Well, we started this back in November of 2019 when we first did our launch. We were originally planning to have our first show in April. And of course, COVID-19 came crashing down, and it has kind of held up our shows for a while. But now, October, we're working with the health board here in town to make sure everything is done right. We're doing our social distancing at the show, making fans wear the face mask. So everybody's, keeping safe. And I'm also going to be, outside of talking to the fans coming in, I'll be checking everyone's temperature too, as well, to make sure everyone is filling up to par. And if anybody was sick, I'll just send them home. I'll give them back their money and, let them go, because I don't want anybody else to get sick around us. And so, yeah, we're up and ready. October 3rd, American Legion Post 451. They're in Michigan City, Indiana. We have a pretty good lineup, 8 really solid matches, and we're going to do it in the old school TV studio style format. So we're going to have the podium, the backdrop, the whole 9 yards, and yeah, it's going to be definitely a classic throwback to old school wrestling with a modern style twist to it.
That's awesome. Every time I hear Indiana, my grandparents lived in Elkhart, Indiana.
Not too far from us. Yeah.
They always talked about, from Benton Harbor. Was Sailor Art Thomas was somewhere from around there back in the day. They would talk about my grandma.
He wrestled a lot in like southern Michigan, Elkhart area, in Fort Wayne. He was around there an awful lot that time period.
They talked about seeing him in a bar from far away and figured, who's that big guy standing up over there? And when they got over there, he was sitting down. Like, that's how big the dude was, just stories like that. So, Michigan City, Indiana. So how far away is that? That's not too far out of Chicago then, right?
No, not at all. It's about maybe like an hour, 30 minutes from there. So we're still considered Chicagoland area because it's still part of the Northwest Chicago territory, So yeah, we have a lot of fans from Illinois come to the show, Michigan, Indiana. We have one ticket buyer all the way from Kentucky that's actually coming up to watch the show. So people are excited. Bell time is going to be at 7 p.m. Doors open up at 6. And tickets are only $10 for singles, and for a family of 4, $30. And so everybody can go there and have a good time. And we wanted the fans and the community to actually forget about the worries for at least one night and just have a good time.
And that's what it's all about. And I always tell people, a lot of people will watch the show, and a lot of people I talk to, but will say, hey, there's a show running in the high school. I'd rather go to WWE and AEW. And I'm always saying, hey, you go ahead. You want to sit in a big stadium and watch some stuff? Of course, a lot of this was pre-COVID, but if you want to go to wrestling and you want to have a good time, you go check out independent wrestling, because now I'm going to get a chance to talk to these guys at intermission or after. I might get an autograph. If I don't like you, I'm going to boo you. You're going to hear it. You may interact with me. Independent wrestling is just, and ever since I'm passionate, ever since I joined Wrestling Travel, we do all the big shows. That's how we, bread and butter. We bring you to WrestleMania. We bring you to Wrestle Kingdom. But we are, since I've been a proponent of promoting independent wrestling, independent wrestlers, because your promotions like yours have the stars of tomorrow.
Yeah. It's the heart and soul of the business. It's where the stars of tomorrow will be found on TV. Our show's going to be here for Amazon Prime. But I'm taking a crew of young guys that I believe that will be the next big stars out of the Midwest. And we also have great veteran leadership that is also part of that company too. That guys like Vic Capri, who's been to the dance. He's wrestled in Japan. He's wrestled in Europe. He's done WWE television. Marche Rocket, who's TNA Impact. And mixing the youth on one side and the veterans on the other side, and giving everyone that chance to showcase what they can do. And it's a good learning lessons for a lot of the younger guys to learn from guys who's been to they've seen the bright lights. They know what it takes to be on national television. And I think it's a good format and a good formula. Everybody's working together. And my whole thing is that in October, we're going to give the fans a good show. And on top of that, we're going to make sure that when they leave, the first question they say is, when's the next show? That's my biggest goal. When I want people to leave, they're going to be like, man, that was the best 2.5, 3 hours of my life. And I am so glad that I left the house and forgot about the problems of the world right now and just had a fun time.
That's what it's all about. So I want to be respectful of your time. I want to ask you two more questions. The first question is I want to ask you, can I get you on after that October 3rd show, and maybe we do a review of what happened and maybe a preview for the next?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I know that's not the only question I'll have you on there. I know we could talk forever on our protect the business, respect the business type thing. We're on the same page. So I feel like but my last question is my most important question that I ask everybody. So you know what's coming. We've already pushed the show, but as a fan, where can I find, I want to keep up with Chicagoland Championship Wrestling. Can you plug your socials? Do you guys have merch that's for sale on your website? Anything we can do to support you guys? Plug away.
So on our Facebook page, go to Chicagoland Championship Wrestling. We have our Facebook page. We're very active on there. A lot of the guys are posting up parody videos, vignettes, montage videos, a lot of really good stuff. On Instagram, we're on CCW Entertainment 83. And also we have a website at ChicagolandChampionshipWrestling.com. For merchandise, we're on Pro Wrestling Tees. Just type in the search field Chicagoland Championship Wrestling. And also we have a What a Maneuver store. So we go on What a Maneuver, look up Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, you'll see our Grapple Masters, which is our take on Saturday Night Slam Masters from the 90s video games. So, so we're all about the retro stuff. So that's a big thing. And I'll tell you this too.
That game's jumped up in value lately. That's what I was going to say.
Oh, it really has. Absolutely. So, and the thing is, too, I also want to give you guys a shout out, too. If you guys ever want to team up with us, would love to, because we have fans. We actually have a very strong fan base in Germany that has actually been wanting to come to the United States to watch our shows. So I know you guys are helping with European travelers and stuff to come see, big wrestling events. I love the offer that's the UK and to the folks in Germany.
Well, what's awesome is the cool thing is that I got a lot of guys that want to wrestle over in the UK, and I got a lot of guys in the UK that want to wrestle in the USA. So once these borders get open, I'm all about making the connection from somebody I know over here to somebody I know over here and go. I was just talking this morning with the UK promoter, PWI UK Pro Wrestling International, United Kingdom. Steve Saxon and I were talking about how when the borders open, we want to make that connection. Yeah, we'd love, like I said, we're big proponents of independent wrestling. There's plenty of things you and I could talk about off camera, but the one thing I have to talk about, because we're in the United Kingdom, I need you to make this promise to them, all the fans. In the Twitter is huge. We need the Chicagoland Championship Wrestling Twitter.
Working on that right now as we speak.
Okay. That's awesome. And I know you and I had talked before the last couple of days, and I'm like, I didn't have Twitter either. I had Twitter. I celebrated my 10th anniversary on Twitter, but I think I only started tweeting maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it's actually been a great platform to communicate with everybody. So we'll get them on Twitter, guys. We'll check when we do part 2 here in October. We'll see if Chicagoland's got Twitter, and I know the UK fans are quick to follow stuff on Twitter, so we'll help you out there. So John Bullard, I want to thank you so much for going on my long, incoherent rambling, but we got there in the end. We talked about a lot of stuff, and the good thing about ending an interview like this is I know that we've got plenty more in the tank to talk about. So I want to thank you very much for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, Justin. You guys are awesome, and I'm really looking forward to a good friendship. And on top of it, definitely be glad to share this interview with all the people on once it lands on YouTube.
Absolutely. Thank you, and I can't wait to talk more and talk more old school wrestling with you. So,
yeah, man.
All right. Take care, buddy.
All right, buddy. Take care.